In the heart of Manila stood Grand Central Mall, a gleaming monument to luxury where marble floors reflected crystal chandeliers and security personnel in crisp uniforms maintained the exclusivity of the establishment. The North Wing housed international designer boutiques where Manila's elite shopped in air-conditioned comfort, sheltered from the realities of the outside world. Meanwhile, in a modest home in General Santos City, Princess Pacquiao prepared for a rare trip to Manila. Though her father was a boxing legend and senator, Princess had been raised with humility. At 17, she dressed simply in jeans and a plain t-shirt, her long black hair tied back with a rubber band. Around her neck hung a small silver cross, a gift from her father after one of his championship fights. The monsoon season had brought heavy rains to the capital. As Princess stepped off the bus after the overnight journey from General Santos, the sky opened up. By the time she reached Grand Central Mall, her clothes were soaked through, her simple canvas shoes leaving wet prints on the polished floor. Despite her appearance, she carried herself with quiet dignity, focused on her mission, to find the perfect birthday gift for her father. She had saved for months from her allowance to buy something meaningful rather than expensive, a pair of miniature boxing gloves carved from Nara wood, representing both her father's career and their Filipino heritage. The artisan shop that sold these special items was located in the mall's exclusive North Wing. Ramon Buenaventura stood guard at the entrance to the North Wing, his posture military straight despite the chronic pain in his back. At 55, with salt and pepper hair and deep lines etching his face, Ramon had worked security at Grand Central for 20 years, developing a keen eye for who belonged and who didn't. The day had been particularly difficult for Ramon. His wife's dialysis costs had increased again, and that morning, his son had received news that the university scholarship he'd been counting on, his only hope for medical school, had been awarded to someone else. Additionally, his supervisor had hinted that the mall might soon be restructuring its security team. When Ramon spotted Princess approaching, her wet clothes and provincial bearing marking her as an outsider, he made a quick judgment. Without checking for identification or asking her purpose, he stepped forward, blocking her path with a firm expression and authoritative stance. His dismissal was polite but unmistakable as he gestured toward the main concourse, suggesting more suitable establishments for someone of her apparent status. Princess's confusion was evident in her expression as she attempted to explain her presence, pointing toward the artisan shop. Ramon remained unmoved, already guiding her away with practiced efficiency, citing mall policy regarding proper attire and authorized access for the exclusive section. As they walked through the main atrium, they passed a small coffee shop where an elderly man sat alone, dressed in surprisingly simple clothes for such an exclusive setting. His weathered face partially hidden beneath a cap, he watched the scene unfold with interest. Few would have recognized him as Carlos Delgado, the owner of Grand Central Mall and one of the wealthiest developers in the Philippines. Princess felt the sting of humiliation as shoppers stared at the security guard escorting her away. Yet instead of arguing or revealing her identity, she noticed the worry lines on Ramon's face and the slight tremor in his hands, signs of someone carrying heavy burdens. As they reached the main entrance, Ramon's radio crackled with an urgent summons to the service area on the opposite side of the mall. Looking at the torrential downpour outside, his frustration was evident. He had no umbrella to navigate the outdoor section connecting the two wings. Princess, standing under the covered entrance, observed his dilemma. Without hesitation, she reached into her backpack and retrieved a small folding umbrella, the only protection she had brought against the storm. With a gentle gesture, she pressed it into Ramon's hands, the simple act conveying more kindness than words could express. Before Ramon could fully register what had happened, Princess stepped into the rain and disappeared into the crowded street, leaving the security guard holding the humble umbrella and experiencing a confusing mixture of shame and gratitude. Carlos Delgado had followed them discreetly and witnessed the entire exchange from a distance. The girl who had been rudely expelled from his mall had given away her only protection against the storm to the very person who had humiliated her. Something about her gentle dignity stirred memories of his own humble beginnings, long buried under decades of wealth and power. 3 days passed. Ramon continued his shifts at the mall, the incident with the young girl lingering in his thoughts. The umbrella sat in the security office, a persistent reminder of unexpected kindness. That morning, the local newspapers featured front-page stories about Senator Manny Pacquiao's upcoming charity event at a community center near General Santos City, complete with photographs of the boxing legend and his family. Meanwhile, Carlos Delgado found himself uncharacteristically preoccupied with the incident at his mall. The young woman's quiet dignity had pierced through the isolation that great wealth had created around him. Through discreet inquiries and review of security footage, he attempted to identify the girl who had shown such remarkable character. In his spacious mansion overlooking Manila Bay, Manny Pacquiao noticed his daughter's subdued demeanor. When asked about her trip to Manila, Princess mentioned only the heavy rain and her unsuccessful shopping mission. No word of being ejected from the mall or her act of kindness crossed her lips. It wasn't until Manny overheard Princess recounting the incident to her younger sister that he understood what had transpired. His initial anger quickly transformed into thoughtful contemplation. Here was an opportunity to teach a more meaningful lesson about dignity and respect. 1 week after the incident, Ramon received an unexpected summons to the management office. His heart sank with the anticipation of discipline or dismissal. Upon entering, he froze at the sight of Carlos Delgado himself waiting alongside a figure Ramon instantly recognized. Manny Pacquiao, the people's champion, dressed simply but radiating an unmistakable presence. Before Ramon could process this shocking tableau, the door opened again to admit the very girl he had escorted from the mall. Seeing her standing beside Manny Pacquiao, recognition dawned with devastating clarity. He had expelled the daughter of not only a national hero, but one of the most powerful men in the Philippines. The memory of the umbrella she had given him, her final gesture before departing in the rain, now felt impossibly significant. Carlos Delgado broke the tense silence, explaining that he had witnessed everything and had contacted Senator Pacquiao after identifying Princess from the security footage. Ramon stood motionless, anticipating severe consequences, mentally calculating how his family might survive without his income. Instead of displaying anger, Manny approached Ramon with the same quiet dignity that had made him legendary both in and out of the ring. A reassuring hand on the security guard's shoulder preceded questions about his family, asked with genuine interest. Ramon's hesitant responses gradually revealed the full picture of his struggles. His wife's illness, his son's thwarted educational aspirations, and the mounting financial pressures that had affected his temperament that fateful day. Princess, initially reluctant to participate in this confrontation, found herself moved by Ramon's narrative. The security guard's struggles echoed stories her father had shared about his own childhood, of hunger, of fighting not for glory but survival. Carlos Delgado observed the interaction with growing fascination. His empire had been built through shrewd business acumen, often prioritizing profits over human connections. Witnessing Manny Pacquiao, a man with every justification for demanding retribution, instead offering understanding, awakened long-dormant empathy in the developer's heart. The conversation evolved beyond the incident to broader issues: how appearances often dictated treatment in spaces like Grand Central Mall, how economic pressures transformed decent people into harsh gatekeepers, how small acts of kindness could bridge seemingly insurmountable social divides. 2 weeks later, Grand Central Mall hummed with unusual activity. The exclusive wing was undergoing partial renovation, generating speculation about Carlos Delgado's unexpected change in business direction. Ramon arrived at work to discover a formal letter reassigning him as coordinator for a new community engagement program at the mall. His compensation had doubled, accompanied by a note indicating his son's education would be fully funded through the newly established Delgado Pacquiao Scholarship Foundation. Additionally, His wife had been enrolled in a comprehensive medical program at Manila's finest hospital. Princess revisited the mall, this time with her father at her side. Together they entered the artisan shop she had originally attempted to visit. The craftsman, having learned of her story, presented her with the carved Narawood boxing gloves she had hoped to purchase as a gift, refusing compensation from either Pacquiao. The most profound transformation, however, manifested in Carlos Delgado. Decades of accumulating wealth had simultaneously isolated him from the struggles of ordinary Filipinos. Princess's simple act of kindness, and Manny's compassionate response to injustice, had profoundly altered his perspective. He began re-evaluating not just mall policies, but his entire approach to business and community engagement. 6 months later, Grand Central Mall hosted an unprecedented event. The exclusive wing had been reimagined as a space where small entrepreneurs from underserved communities could showcase their products alongside luxury brands. This initiative, named Bridges, represented the first of many changes implemented by Carlos Delgado in partnership with the Pacquiao Foundation. Ramon, now directing the mall's community relations department, watched with pride as Manny Pacquiao inaugurated a new educational center within the mall, a resource hub accessible to young people regardless of their appearance or background. Ramon's son stood among the first scholarship recipients, alongside Princess Pacquiao, who had become a regular volunteer. Media representatives gathered in force, anticipating a standard publicity event. Instead, they witnessed something extraordinary as Carlos Delgado publicly recounted the story of Princess's expulsion from the mall and how her response, giving away her umbrella to the man who had humiliated her, had fundamentally altered his understanding of true wealth and dignity. Manny Pacquiao, renowned for his boxing prowess and political influence, spoke not of personal achievements but of his daughter's quiet strength. He explained how Princess's actions embodied the values he had tried to instill: compassion, forgiveness, and the understanding that our treatment of others, especially those who have wronged us, defines character more profoundly than any title or fortune. As cameras captured the moment and the crowd responded with appreciative applause, Princess remained quietly at the periphery, uncomfortable with the attention. Her gaze met Ramon's across the room, and they exchanged a subtle smile of mutual understanding. What had begun as a moment of injustice had evolved into something neither could have foreseen, a ripple of transformation touching countless lives, a reminder that even in a world that often judges by appearance, true character reveals itself not through status or wealth, but through acts of kindness when no recognition is expected and no reward is sought. If you like this kind of story, leave your like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on the next videos.